Hi everybody, it's Megan Reeds and I'm here to, you guessed it, talk about books. And we are in our second week of October and we're going to talk all about the rest of our spooky book collection. Very, very, very excited. Do you like my shirt, by the way? I did it just for this video. Winnie, I Smell a Child. I absolutely love Hocus Pocus and I am dying to see the second one. Haven't seen it yet, but I am going to. I've heard mixed reviews, so I'm like, damn, do I really want to watch it? I don't want it to ruin what I loved about the first one, but I'm still going to see it, obviously. I mean, come on, it's Hocus friggin' Pocus. You kidding me? But let's stop talking about movies for a minute and put that over here, and let's talk about what we came here to talk about, books. And we're going to be talking about Insomnia today by Sarah Pinborough. I love this author. I read Behind Her Eyes that she wrote a couple of years ago, and that book didn't just stay with me for like a minute or an hour or even a day. It's been years, and I still think about that book constantly. The ending of that book, the twist of that book was something to this day I've never seen. It's actually in my best of books of all time list because I absolutely love that book. So I've had this book waiting for such a long time to read, and I've been waiting for the right moment, and finally the right moment was here. It was amazing. It was so good. Cannot recommend this book enough. Absolutely friggin' perfect. It was definitely scary. It was definitely horror vibes. It was psychological thriller vibes. At one moment I was wondering, was this like a gaslight situation? The idea, let's break it down. Let's first talk about the plot itself so you understand what the hell I'm even talking about, right? Okay, so this book is about Emma Averill. She's 39 years old. Her 40th birthday is quickly approaching. And like a lot of women, she's a little nervous about turning 40. But for her, it's not just, the number itself that's freaking her out. It's the ties to her past. When her mother was 40 years old, on the day of her mother's 40th birthday, she had what we are going to deem a psychotic break. And she ended up doing something very horrible. We don't know what it is until about halfway through the book, so I'm not going to spoil that for you. But we do know that whatever it was horrible, it was traumatic. And beforehand, her mother stopped sleeping days before her 40th birthday, so insomnia was highly induced with her psychotic break. And Emma and her older sister Phoebe were actually taken away from their mother and put in foster care. And her mother used to tell Emma all the time when she was very little, she was 5 years old when this happened, that she had bad blood and she was going to end up just like her mother. So with her 40th birthday quickly approaching, she's freaking out. She's always worried about becoming her mother. She has blank spots about that time in her life. She's married. She's a very successful lawyer. She has two beautiful children, one who's 17 and one who's 5. She thinks, you know what, it's just a number. She keeps telling herself that, but in the back of her head, she doesn't quite believe it. And when we start reading this book, actually, we take place, each chapter is designated in days leading up to her birthday. So we start at day 11, chapter 1, all the way till the day of her birthday and what's going on then. So it starts out little. Her sister Phoebe ends up coming back into her life, and her sister Phoebe, when her sister had her 40th birthday a couple of years prior, they kind of lost contact. They weren't as close. Her sister is very jealous of her. She was adopted and fostered into a good family and had all these wonderful opportunities where Phoebe didn't. And the situation that involved their mother, Phoebe was older. She remembers it more. She was a little bit more traumatized in certain ways by that experience. And Emma has a lot of things that Phoebe doesn't have: a marriage, a successful life, children. So there's a little bit of a sisterly resentment there for sure, especially how they grew up. You can't really blame them. But days before everything, before her birthday, weird things starts happening. First of all, she can't sleep. She finds herself suffering horribly from insomnia. She finds herself doing things that her mother did. Her mother would recite these numbers, and she finds herself reciting them. She finds herself losing time and losing moments. She finds herself singing what was her mother's song before her psychotic break really hit. She finds that her and her husband's relationship is becoming even more strained. She's forgetting things that she said, things that she's done. She's getting problems at work, and her life is slowly falling apart. And she's wondering, is this am I going mad? Am I becoming my mother? But she's also wondering, maybe I'm not becoming my mother and somebody's out to get me. So you're reading this book wondering, number one, is she crazy? Is she mad? Or is somebody gaslighting her? Is somebody trying to get around her? Is it her sister? Is it her husband? Is it a coworker? Is it she's a lawyer? So is it somebody that she defended, his wife or husband, who's angry at the verdict? It could be so many things. You also see her going back and forth in time and dealing with the process of what happened with her mother, whom she hasn't seen in years. In 35 years, she hasn't seen her mother. She ends up visiting her mother, and then some weird things happen with that too. This book was absolutely amazing. It was a mystery. It was a thriller. There was supernatural elements to it, very lightly sprinkled in, not too much, which I really enjoyed. Sarah Pinborough always has a way of making her book stand out from all the rest, and this one really did. I absolutely loved the characters. I thought they were all really well written. I felt for all of them, even the ones I didn't like I hated Robert. His ass, he could go. I couldn't stand him from the beginning, even that damn husband. So I didn't like him. I didn't like how he was written, but I don't think I was supposed to like how he was written. I was supposed to be against him from the start, wondering, are you doing something? Which was very smart writing to have you kind of not like them. Also, this narrator, you can't fully trust her because obviously she doesn't know what's going on in her own head. So that really tick, tick, boom. You don't really know what's going on there. And I kind of like that too. There's a lot of talks about how her mother was a second child. She's a second child, and her son Will is a second child. Her son Will is also now starting to draw these horrible pictures of his mother suffocating him with a pillow, things that are very similar to more or less what happened with her mother 35 years ago. So she's wondering, oh my God, am I like my mother? Is this going to happen to me? Or is Will, who's telling Will about this story? Because Will doesn't know anything about his grandmother. So there's a lot of is she being gaslighted? Like I said, is her husband in on it? Is her husband and her sister working together? Is it somebody else? You don't really know, which I really like it. There's a really, really big twist in this book at the end that I found myself putting the book down and slow clapping. That was good. Didn't see it coming at all, but I appreciate it. Like I've said before, as somebody who loves thrillers, as somebody who loves mysteries, I absolutely love when a book can shock me and make me go, hey, that is such a good fucking twist. I love that. I have seen this twist done before in movies, done before in books. It's not like a twist that's never happened before, her other book, Behind Her Eyes. That was a twist that I've never seen done ever again. But this was executed chef's kiss so well. So amazing. The writing was great. I love mixing the past and the present together. I thought this was smart, a smart book. I thought it was very aware of itself. I thought that the writing was so on par. It was so great. I was captivated. This book is not that long. It's 322 pages, and I found myself not wanting to stop. I wanted to keep reading it and reading it. I actually finished this book in 2 days. Absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend this book enough. And the ending was amazing. If you actually are a fan of her previous book, in the end of this book, it ties into her first novel, which I love. I absolutely love the tie-in at the end. I was like, wait a minute. I had to reread it 3 times because I got so excited. But I would highly recommend this book. Check it out. Insomnia kept me up because I didn't want to go to bed. I just wanted to keep reading this book. Absolutely amazing. Well, that's it for the review on this book. As you can tell, I really enjoyed it. I will be back in another clip to talk about my second book during this vlog. I don't know what it's gonna be, so it's gonna be a fun experience for the both of us to see what the hell I'm gonna read next. But until then, I'll see you later in the next clip. Bye, guys. Hi everybody, it's me and I am back. I'm back to talk about the next book that I read, The Cairo Haunt by Darcy Coates. It was fucking phenomenal. And I think at this point, we basically know that most of the books I'm picking so far, I'm obviously loving because, yeah, I picked them. But I absolutely loved this book. I love Darcy Coates. I've actually read from her once before. The Haunting of Lee Harker, I believe was the title. And it was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved that book. It had very The Others vibes, if you're into horror movies, which If you're into horror books, you're probably into horror movies. Let's be honest. But I thought the Cairo Haunt was so good. It was really good. It was really creepy. This is my second time reading Darcy Coates, and I gotta tell you, she knocked it out of the park yet again. So I'm very excited to actually read more from her. And next week or the week after, I'm not really sure about my scheduling yet, I'm going to be reading another Darcy Coates for my October spooky situation. So I'm very excited about that. But let's talk about this book specifically. The Cairo Haunt is about this woman named Remy who actually works at the Cairo Haunt. It's a haunted attraction that she gets all dressed up in 19th century gear, and she does these tours. And this place has been closed for 20 years. Nobody lives there anymore, but she's spoken to the owner and she's allowed to do tours there. And they're small tours, like 8, 9, 10 people. They're always at night, like around 11, midnight kind of thing. And they walk around this place. It's notoriously haunted. It's one of the most notoriously haunted places in their state. And that's all due to Edgar Porter, who had lived there years and years before as a gardener in the 1900s. And there was a fire at that residence. And when the fire happened, the people that lived there, John and Maria, were murdered. And he took over John's identity because they looked so similar. And he actually turned the place into a profitable hotel. A hotel where he could do anything he wanted. And he friggin' did. He killed hundreds upon hundreds of people until he was found out eventually. And he was hanged himself. And the murders and stuff didn't stop there. Other people moved into the house. Horrible things started to happen to them as well. And the last incident was 20 years ago. A child was there when it was still a hotel, and he ended up dying. And due to that, they closed it. It sat on the market for years and years. And then this woman named April bought the estate, and she's into haunted everything, paranormal stuff. And she told Remy that she could do tours. So that's Remy. She's doing tours. She's on this tour. She's really excited. It's one of her nightly tours. And at the end of her tour, this guy named Mark approaches her. Very good looking. So of course, come on, approach me. And they start talking, and he basically says he comes from a pretty wealthy family. He is wealthy himself. And he hands her a card and says, please speak to your boss. I would love to rent this space. And she's like, rent it for what? What are you talking about? Like, I'm the only one that does these tours. They've never had anybody stay here in over 20 years. The new owners have never had anybody stay here. And he basically was like, whatever their price, I'm willing to pay for it. I would love you also to come. And at first she's like, are you hitting on me? And she's kind of flattered, and he's good looking and rich. So I get it. But he actually says, no, it's not like that. Feel free to bring people you would like as well. I'm actually bringing a very renowned medium here. I'm also bringing another person who does like videos and like ghost hunter kind of stuff and gets it on film. And one of my brain and the girl who's actually the medium is bringing her assistant. And I would like to have a group of 8 people. So I would like you to actually come stay with us, and you know more about this place than anybody. I mean, you've researched it to death. You do these tours. I see your face light up when you talk about this place and the history. And I can also tell there's more that you probably want to say, but the tours are limited. You can only talk about them for like an hour, hour and a half. I want to rent this space, not for a day, not for 3 days, for a friggin' week. I want to rent this space. Look at me. I want to rent this space for 2 weeks and live here during the entire time and document the ghosts. Now, I told you, Mark's hot and everything, but right now, I'm not too into him because I'm a little freaked out. Like, why do you want to spend time with ghosts? But apparently it's the most notorious haunted place in their state, so they really want to check it out. She talks to the owner, they agree, and they set up to go. Well, things started happening, and let me know if we're surprised. Not surprised. Not at all. Things start going a little haywire. They have a seance. Again, are you surprised? Of course not. But as much as this book follows a formula, and it does, I mean, come on, it's a horror book, horror movies, they all follow the same trope, more or less. I thought it was done really well. I thought the writing was really spot on. It was really good. I was so intrigued and so interested by it. I loved all the characters too, which in a horror book and or a horror film, 9 times out of 10, I liked maybe the main character and another one. I liked every one of these characters. So I actually was rooting for all of them. I also loved In this book at the beginning, we get a wonderful backstory of the Cairo Haunt. We get the backstory of everyone that was murdered. We are more or less, before we even meet these ghosts, we're introduced to who they were when they were alive. Edgar Porter, who killed so many people, were introduced to his backstory, how many people he killed, in what rooms, and that this huge sprawling mansion, someone's died in every room. There's no safe room. Okay, even the bathroom. There's nothing that's sacred. And it is terrifying. The ghost portion is scary, but I'll tell you, the other thing that's really scary is just seeing, like, this guy was insane. Like, the things he did and the things he was able to get away with, regardless of how, if this book is quote unquote like the scariest book you've ever read, think about it from the perspective of, like, these hundreds of people died and they're trapped here. That's terrifying. People as young as children, people as old as in their 60s. Some bodies were never recovered. There's a basement. Don't go in the basement. Just never go in a basement. Like, I swear, don't do it to yourself. And this basement, there's still bone fragments that they were never able to fully, like, get. Oh, no. I wouldn't live in this house for nothing. I wouldn't even stay in this house. I love horror movies. I love creepy things from afar, because I believe very strongly in all of this stuff, which is probably another reason why I obviously loved this book. The writing was really good. I loved this, how we were introduced to each character. I loved Edgar Porter was gross and disgusting human being and all the things he did, but his backstory was really interesting. I also really love Marjorie, who was the medium. Yeah, medium, not psychic exactly, but I think it's more or less kind of the same. Could be wrong though. Don't quote me. But I loved her. I loved her candor. I love how she was like, oh, come on, you big babies. It's not that big of a deal. Let's just, because she's got this power. She's an older woman. She's had it for a long time. Darcy Coates always writes characters so complex and all from different walks of life or different experiences. So when everybody comes together in a group, it flows really, really, really well. I enjoyed this book so much. I cannot say enough how much I liked it, how much I enjoyed it. If you hear papers flipping right now, that's me looking at notes, because that is how I live. I have to look at notes or else something goes out of this noggin, and that would just suck for me. But, oh, that was the other thing. See, this is why notes are good, okay? Another thing that I just remembered, actually, is I have read, like I said before, another Darcy Coates book previously, and that book gave me very strong The Others vibes. This book, I'm reading it, and I'm like, it's giving me vibes. It's giving me a vibe. What fucking movie is it making me think of? And I figured it out. Stephen King's Rose Red miniseries. Now, if you're a Stephen King fan, that should get you interested already in this book. If you love Rose Red, which I love that miniseries. I watched it with my mom growing up, and I love Stephen King. Just love anything he does. All of his adaptations I've watched like 12 times. So that's what it gave me. It gave me very Rose Red vibes. And let me tell you, I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? All of her books so far, and I like that, they're very visual experiences. That's how I read them. I see them so visually that it actually makes it more terrifying for me in lots of ways, because I see it as if it's happening right there. All of her books that I've read so far, granted it's only 2, there will be 3 soon, and then I'll obviously have a better opinion and know if that's actually more or less true. But all of the books that I've read from her so far, both of them, they would be really great adaptations, and I see them so visually that's what I think makes this such a good book. You don't want to stop. You don't want to stop reading it. You're so invested in the characters. You're invested in everything, and I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. I cannot recommend it enough. There's a really good ending too. I thought the ending was really good. It wasn't no sappy fucking ending, but it wasn't like the scariest thing in the world. Now, is this horror? Definitely. This is definitely horror. Fits October theme really well. Did it scare me in aspects? 100%. It creeped me out. It scared me. Do I feel like I need to sleep with a nightlight? No, but I wasn't expecting that exactly from a book of like this with that plot. I was expecting to be creeped out, and I was. I was not expecting to like all the characters, and I did, and I thought the plot was done even better than I thought it would be done, because like I said, it's not a plot you have never heard from before, but I thought that Darcy Coates made it her own, and I thought it was really well done. I would definitely recommend it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of part well, week 2, week 2 of this. And next week I'll be coming back and we'll talk about more books. So this week there was only 2 books. Sorry. Sometimes I'm going to read more. Sometimes I'm going to read less. As I've said before, I live a quite busy life sometimes. So it's not always going to be 2, 3, 4, and 5 books. I guarantee it will never be 1. That's about the only thing I can guarantee. There'll never be just 1 review unless it's like a 900-page book. And then, sorry. Like, that's extreme. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, in January there is going to be a 900-page book. So I'm not biting myself in the ass right now. There will maybe be one book one day, just one day. But I will see you next week, and I'll see you next week with an all new batch of books. I actually know what I'm reading next week is my first book. I know, it's shocking. Lately I have had no fucking clue, but I do know I'm actually doing a buddy read. So I'm very, very excited, and my friend knows who I'm talking about because I'm buddy reading it with her. She's my friend through Instagram, so if you are watching this, hi. But I'm super excited to do more videos next week. And this is Megan Reads, and I'm going to bid you adieu, and I hope to see you next time. Happy, healthy, and of course, reading. Bye.